Imagine you're a Detroit Tigers fan in October of 2014. Your team has just clinched its fourth straight NL Central title. You've spent the last 4 years watching a powerhouse rotation featuring Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer, Anibal Sanchez, and even David Price. You've got Miguel Cabrera, still the most feared hitter in baseball, with back-to-back MVPs under his belt. You are in a good spot. The Tigers went to the World Series in 2012, made deep playoff runs in 2011 and 2013, and have been one of the most aggressive win-now teams in all of baseball. The ownership spends, the roster stack, and the window looks wide open. It feels like the next 10 years are going to be a golden era. A championship, or more, seems inevitable. What you didn't expect was what actually happened. Over the next decade, you watched your beloved Tigers collapse. You didn't just miss the playoffs, you disappeared. 0 postseason appearances. Meanwhile, you sat and watched every other team in the AL Central hoist division titles at least once. The Royals won it all in 2015. The Twins grabbed multiple crowns. Even the struggling White Sox rebuilt and surged to the top in 2021. But most of all, it was the Cleveland Indians, now the Guardians, who tormented you. They became October regulars. They won the division 7 times and made a World Series run in 2016, somehow finding themselves in the conversation every year. They essentially became what Detroit was supposed to be. Then, finally, in 2024, hope returned. You made the playoffs again. Not as division champs, of course. That went to Cleveland again. But you didn't care. You were in. As a wild card, you went to Houston and shocked the baseball world by knocking off the Astros. Next up, a familiar face, the Cleveland Guardians. And for a minute, it looked like the tide had turned. Detroit took a 2-1 lead in the ALDS, heading into Game 4 at Comerica Park. You were 1 win away, with 2 chances to finally beat the Guardians and move on to face the Yankees for the pennant. But then came disaster. Game 4, blown late. Game 5, heartbreak. Cleveland moved on, and you went home. Yet still, there was optimism. You had a new young core. Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson, Kerry Carpenter, Parker Meadows, Jake Rogers, and the pitching staff led by Tarek Skubal, Reese Olson, and Jack Flaherty. The team had identity, swagger, leadership under AJ Hinch. So you looked to 2025 and said, this is the year. And at first, it really seemed like it. The Tigers stormed out of the gate. The rotation was sharp, the bullpen locked down games, and the lineup clicked. Skubal easily locked in his 2nd straight Cy Young campaign. New acquisition Gleyber Torres was pulling his weight. And you even got a career resurrection from Javier Baez, who's thus far been a terrible contract. Your team would end up sending 6 guys to the All-Star game in Atlanta. You climbed to the top of the division, leading the Central by 15.5 games at one point. And Cleveland left in the dust. It finally felt like your time. But then, the unthinkable. The lead vanished, Cleveland got hot, Detroit got cold. The bats went quiet, and the bullpen cracked. And now, as September winds down, the Guardians have surged past you again. You're clinging onto a wildcard spot, maybe, but the division that was yours just weeks ago is slipping away once more. How did a team that looked destined to reclaim the Central wind up here again, staring up at Cleveland? You were supposed to be back. Instead, you're asking the same question you've asked for 10 straight years. What the f*** happened? The Tigers were supposed to be back. After a decade in the dark, the 2025 Tigers had finally delivered on the promise of last season's wildcard breakthrough. This team felt different, dominant. By July 8th, Detroit led the AL Central by a wide margin and held a 15.5 game lead over Cleveland. At that point, the Guardians were in complete freefall. They were buried and irrelevant, their reign seemingly finally coming to an end. While the Tigers played crisp, confident baseball, Cleveland sat in the trenches, ranked near the bottom of the league in every major offensive category. Dead last in on-base percentage, 2nd worst in slugging, and 2nd worst in OPS. Even at the trade deadline, it was Detroit buyers, Cleveland sellers. The Tigers held a commanding 8-game lead entering August, and that dominance only continued into September. On September 1st, despite a loss to start the month, Detroit's odds of winning the AL Central peaked at 99.8 according to Fangraphs. At that point, they led the Guardians by 10.5 games, and most projections slotted them to receive one of the 2 AL first-round buys. For a franchise that hadn't won the division since 2014, the countdown to a champagne celebration felt like a formality. But beginning September 11th, everything unraveled. The Tigers lost 11 of their next 12 games, falling into a spectacular freefall, while Cleveland caught fire. The Guardians won 17 of 20 games during that same span, including a head-to-head series against Detroit that could go down as one of the most consequential in divisional history. By September 24th, the impossible became reality. Cleveland passed Detroit in the standings for the first time in 184 days. The collapse wasn't just stunning, it was historic. The division-defining series in Cleveland was the climax of everything that had gone wrong. Real quick, if you're enjoying the video so far, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe, as it helps me out a ton and gets me a little bit closer to my next goal of 2,500 subscribers. Thank you, and let's get back to the video. In Game 1, Detroit took a 2-0 lead into the 6th before Tarek Skubal fell apart in dramatic fashion. A botched between-the-legs flip on a bunt sailed over Spencer Torkelson's head. Then came a 99-mile-an-hour fastball that struck David Fry in the face, followed by a wild pitch and a balk. All of it combined to a 5-run meltdown in a game the Tigers absolutely had to win. They struck out 19 times that night, tying a franchise record for Cleveland pitching. Game 2 wasn't much better. A potential home run robbery by Parker Meadows turned into a 2-run shot when the ball just nicked off his glove. The kind of almost that's defined the collapse. Even when Detroit won Game 3, it barely mattered. Cleveland had already secured the season series, and with it, the all-important tiebreaker. The Tigers weren't just watching Cleveland catch up, they were watching them pull ahead, and it was Cleveland doing so after having a terrible year up until that point. One where Emmanuel Clase, their all-star closer, and key reliever Luis Ortiz were both placed on indefinite leave in July due to an ongoing MLB investigation into sports betting. Even so, the Guardians didn't flinch. The offense didn't explode. It didn't have to. Cleveland's pitching staff, quietly solid all year, became untouchable. In the span of September 5th to 26th, Cleveland allowed just 34 runs, the fewest in baseball, whereas Detroit allowed 81. The Tigers weren't just losing, they were unraveling. The rotation outside of Skubal became inconsistent, the bullpen cracked, and the offense went ice cold. Riley Green, Kerry Carpenter, and Torkelson struggled in big moments, and the Tigers ranked near the bottom of the league in OPS, runs scored, and strikeouts during September. At the same time, they committed mind-numbing errors, missed fundamentals, and made mistakes in high-pressure moments. In a season that began with so much promise, one where they once held the best record in the AL, Detroit is now no longer just fighting for a title. They're also fighting for survival. As of this recording, the division is a tight race. Cleveland has the momentum, the tiebreaker, and the psychological edge. And now, with just days left in the regular season, Detroit isn't just trying to finish second. They're trying to avoid Cancun. As of September 25th, they still held a slight edge in the final wildcard spot, still having a chance to win the division as well. If they make it, there's a real chance they'll face the Guardians again in the postseason. That same team that knocked them out of the ALDS in 2024 after Detroit held a 2-1 series lead. That same team that just erased a 15.5 game gap. That same team that keeps beating them when it matters most. For 10 years, they waited for October baseball to return. For much of this season, it looked like they were a lock to host it. And now they're praying just to be invited. And if they fall short, it won't just be the worst collapse of the year, it may go down as the worst September collapse in MLB history. After 184 days of being in first place, the Tigers are looking up again at Cleveland. And for fans who believe this was the year to flip the script, all that remains is crushed hopes, a bruised rotation, and that one lingering question.